YouTube. Thank you guys for joining. I appreciate you guys on Facebook and YouTube. This is going to be a world report, not just about America, but about Europe, France, Italy, I guess, Greece, Australia, and they're pushing back against mandatory vaccination, forced vaccination, and vaccine passports. We're going to talk about that. And also, I want to talk about Dubai is making it rain. This is CBS. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not a hoax. This is a CBS News broadcast, mainstream news. It's so hot in Dubai that the government is artificially creating rainstorms. So they're now admitting that they are creating, weather engineering. And this has been going on for probably 100 years, but at least the last 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. I have several videos about weather manipulation and geoengineering. Not something I made up in my head. It's mainstream news. It's so mainstream, it's even on Wikipedia, and it's been on it for a long time. So we're going to talk about that. And also there's a big rainstorm in India that have left 125 people dead. We'll also talk about that. So thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you. Jerome said, greetings from Paris, France. God bless you guys. Thank you for, doing something. And I'm going to read about France in a second. Thank you guys. I got you here. I know it's backwards, but you see, I got you, brother. When they shut one of us down, they shut us all down. Someone said, thanks for covering the protest. No problem. My pleasure. Let's get it started. What's up, Teresa? Real quick before I start, if you haven't subscribed to my Clips channel on YouTube, I have a Clips channel, and you guys know I do big live streams. I also do like 10 to 15 minute news videos. I chop those into smaller clips, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, just to get to the point. So sometimes people don't want to watch a 15-minute stream, let alone a 2-hour stream. So I listen to the people, and I created a Clips channel so you can get little bits of information to the people, to yourself, whatever. You don't have a lot of time. Very quick, very easy. And some of my best work, I try to just clip it up. Someone said, why all of a sudden everyone pushing? Crease, I'm going to answer the super chats later. Thank you for the super chat, but I'm not going to answer any till the end. First thing I want to talk about, this is AP. We'll start with France, and then we'll go to Greece, Italy, et cetera, because there's different reasons, but they're all very similar. It's all relying around the forced vaccination one way or another. This is Associated Press about an hour ago. It says, French protesters reject virus pass vaccine mandate. And it says some 160,000 people, including far-right activists and members of France's Yellow Vest movement, protested Saturday across the country against a bill requiring everyone to have a special virus pass to enter restaurants and mandating COVID-19 vaccinations for all healthcare workers. Similar protests are happening in Italy. It's getting pretty ugly in some of the European areas. So they admit there's over 160,000 people, but they try to say it's the far right. The Yellow Vests, of course, it included left-wing and right-wing protesters, but this is how they dupe the left wing into thinking it's scary. They're like, oh, it's the far right doesn't want to be tracked with a vaccine passport everywhere. It's like, it's not a far right sort of thing. This should unite the left and the right, the populists and the, for the people movements, but they always use wording like that, like 160,000 people, and it's so bad. So that's what's happening in France. I'm going to look at Italy real quick. It says Italy faces a wave of Green Pass protests, demonstrations against Italy's new COVID Green Pass. So that's what they're calling the vaccine passport, Green Pass. Rules are planned in more than 80 towns and cities across the country Saturday. The rallies organized via social media are against the so-called Green Pass, which will soon be mandatory for indoor dining restaurants and for access to cultural and sporting venues. So they're taking away people's access to restaurants and saying you need a passport to enter. And they have all sorts of ways of calling it a green passport. They have all these sort of names. Protests. This is Irish Times. It says protests against COVID-related restrictions in France, Greece, and Australia. They're trying to label it as far right. But in Greece, apparently there's 4,000 people rallied outside Greek parliament for a third time this month to oppose mandatory inoculations for some of its workers and healthcare and nursing staff. So even in Greece, I think it's even bigger than just the passports. Like in America, there's a lot of professions and people, including the NFL, certain nurses, et cetera, who are pretty much being forced. It's happening across the country and my country as well. If you don't get the vaccine, you can't work here. If you don't get the vaccine, you're going to screw it up for your team. If you don't get the vaccine, you can't come to the sauna. In Los Angeles, I have multiple friends who live there. They are currently implementing this at restaurants and bars. My friend got turned away from multiple bars. They said, if you don't have a vaccine passport or a card, you can't come in this bar. So you'll see it obviously start in the liberal cities and the big corporations that control everything. They're going to roll this out in America as well. I know people think they're not, but they are going to try to get around it. And, it's interesting, and it's nice to see that Europe is putting their foot down. I mean, I know there's people who got it and didn't get it on my channel, but it really is like, if you give up your freedom to go places, get food, go travel, under the guise of you have to get this big pharma inoculation in your arm, which, by the way, they're now talking about booster shots. The reports are in from Israel, and they're talking about variants, and it's not what they thought it was. So now they're talking about a third one. And, fully vaccinated is an interesting term because you're fully vaccinated for now, according to what they tell you. But as soon as they tell you to get back in line with the booster shot, all of these vaccine supremacists who said, I'm so much better than you because I have it. It's like, bro, you're not fully vaccinated anymore. You got to get back in line when they tell you to and get it. And then the next year, get it. It's probably going to be like the flu shot where it doesn't last forever, but they're not sure yet. As much as they want to act like they're sure, they're not sure yet, or else they would give you a concrete timeline. If they knew all the science and the data, they would say, okay, well, this is when you have to get it, but they don't know because this is all so new. It's still not FDA approved. It was rushed out faster than anything I've ever seen. Moderna, a company that didn't have any products on the market as far as vaccines, Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson, no offense, companies that have had lots of problems recently. Pfizer has recalled Chantix because of possibly a cancer-causing chemical. You've had Johnson & Johnson settle one of the biggest opioid settlements ever. I still have it from my last report, $26 billion, where they paid $5 billion. They have a sunscreen recall, which they claim is fine, but they just took it off the market. They have a baby powder lawsuit that's dragged out over the course of years. So, I mean, I get why people would want it. I get why people wouldn't. But this idea that these companies with less than a flawless track record can at any time force you to get their product, and if you don't want to get it, you can't enter a restaurant. This is a way bigger precedent than COVID-19. This is a way bigger precedent than this virus. This is setting the tone for humanity forever, that you no longer are allowed access to human rights and resources that'll keep you alive if you don't submit to whatever your government or whatever the pharmacy industry tells you to do at the time. Even though if you watch television, you'll find out that there have been dozens upon dozens of products that were once approved that were taken off the market. There have been dozens of product that were once approved that are recalled. And there have been dozens and dozens and dozens of products that they once told you were safe that are not as safe as they told you were. So now you could hire a lawyer via your television cell phone call and, sue them for what they told you was better than what it really was. I mean, is that not what television is? I mean, it's hard to watch TV for 20 minutes without seeing those type of commercials. So I don't care what people do, but I'm not on 7 pills. Some people are on 5 pills, 4 pills, 3 pills. I decide to work out, exercise, and me personally, I don't need to be on any pills. Some people need to be on because of genetics. Some people need to be on because they don't take care of themselves, and they go to the doctor and they say, take this pill, take this pill, take this pill, and they're on 3 or 4 pills. Those are the best customers. I get it. I've known how the pharmacy industry works forever. If everybody was super healthy and fit and took care of themselves, they wouldn't make that much money. They need people to be obese, overweight, out of shape, not taking care of themselves, because those are the best customers. Those are returning customers, and those are people that are on 4 or 5 products, where me, if I drink water and fast for 48 hours, I'm not really a big asset to the fast food or pharmacy industry. However, everybody's entitled to do what they do. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical advisor. I don't claim to be. But this idea that vaccine supremacists, which is a term I've coined, I've never heard anybody say it, but I've been saying it the past couple of weeks, a vaccine supremacist, people that think they're better than you because they got it. It's not like I got it, you got it. I don't really care. But if you think you're like a supremacist, and some of these people, no offense, they're not the fittest people I've ever seen in my life. Like, at least be a bodybuilder and be like, Anomaly, you're out of shape. I'm like, dude, I'll listen. This guy's jacked. Like, what do you do? What do you eat? What vaccine did you get? But some of these people, no offense, looking like Jabba the Hutt, trying to act like they're, Arnold Schwarzenegger of the fitness community. It's like, listen, you got 2 injections in your arm. Next thing you know, you're like a supremacist. You're like, you can't come where I come. It's like, they want to be elite citizens, and they want you to be slaves, peasants, and serfs if you decide not to get it. And keep in mind, say you get 2 jabs, 3 jabs, 4 jabs, 5 years down the road, and all of a sudden maybe something happens, like a side effect that you don't like, and you decide, I don't want to get it next year, because there's a lot of people like that. I know people just in my personal circle. I know a woman who is liberal, pro-vaccine, never said anything wrong or bad or right-wing at all. And her arm is currently like semi-paralyzed from a vaccine injection. And she's currently, this was a different one, not the new COVID ones. Her arm doesn't work anymore. And she's going through the process of trying to get that government money because her arm doesn't work. So she's been very hesitant to get this one, not because she's a horrible, terrible person. She's liberal, pro-vaccine. She's just had a bad experience in the past. So what happens then in 4 years? Maybe you get 5, 6, 7, and you decide 1 year you just don't feel like getting it for whatever educated scientific reason. Well, now all of a sudden you're not fully vaccinated and you lose access to restaurants, gyms, etc. Very dangerous precedent to step down. Thank you, Europe, for stepping up. And I want to talk about India real quick, but I want to speculate why I think this isn't happening in America for 2 reasons. Because you don't have these type of protests that you have in France, Italy, Germany. Maybe not Germany, but Greece, Italy, which one did I forget? I don't know. The 4 or 5 European countries that are protesting. Oh, Australia. I forgot. Australia is going pretty hard too. They're not Europe, but they're experiencing the same sort of thing and they're pushing back. So shout out Australia. I don't think it's happening in America for 2 reasons. One, we have maybe better politicians here. So you do have Republicans saying we won't do vaccine passports. We're going to put our foot down, no more lockdowns, etc. So I think that's a reason that's cooling the protests in America, because you have certain conservative areas that are promising you, probably not telling the truth, but promising you that you'll never have to face that. Although I would say that because they're all selling the product, that one way or another, once that critical mass is hit, I think these people are going to turn against people, and the big corporations are already plotting how to do it across state lines. However, there are politicians that are better than Europe and Australia. So people don't feel the need to protest right now. I think that's one of the main reasons why it's not happening here. We're not as crazy yet. But I also think it's because in these countries, they don't think there's a leader that's going to save them, right? They don't have a Donald Trump type character. So they're pretty familiar. Boris Johnson's not going to save me. This Australian guy's not going to save me. I don't know what it's like in Italy and Greece, but they don't have this illusion that there's a politician in charge that's going to rescue them like in America. Where in America, I think people think Donald Trump's going to save their life. So today, there's going to be a huge event, a Trump rally, even though he's going to sit there and say, I'm the father of vaccines. I did it. I rushed the FDA. I'm the best. I got these to you. And, you know, Ron DeSantis is going to tell you it's going to save your life. Go get it. Hannity's going to tell you it's going to get it. So I think in America, we're kind of disillusioned still, where we think there's a party that's really fighting hard for our freedom. But I feel like they're doing just enough to get people to be on their side, but not enough to actually do something about the incoming stuff that we're facing. And I think that goes with everything, socially, economically. They act like they're fighting for you, and then they cave when push comes to shove, and then they put on a circus act. So I think that's part of it. And also, you know, I'm going to do a video that's going to come out tomorrow or Monday, where I'm going to reference a video from Bill Cooper, who has a famous speech. It's going to be in my video so you can watch it. He talks about the Roman circus and how sports, you know, there's millions of grown men who know everything about a third baseman from the Yankees, but they don't even care that there's 12 people meeting in secret in a foreign country to plot out their futures. And I think that's part of it. If you look at Milwaukee, the Bucks, there's hundreds of thousands of people or tens of thousands of people. I love the Bucks. I like Giannis. You know, I love the NBA. I'm not somebody who doesn't watch sports, but I also know what's going on in the world. So you get all these grown men who will go in the streets to celebrate, you know, the Milwaukee Bucks winning the NBA title. And then they're sending their kids off to a liberal college to get force inoculated. And, you know, their kids are being threatened against their will. If they don't get it, they're not allowed into school. And then all of a sudden, there's no grown men and fathers in the streets to protest. So I think in America, we have our priorities a little bit screwed up. We have the 2-party system. Yes, we have more freedom, but people are more concerned about sports and Donald Trump than they are with their own family. And it's going to take more, unfortunately, than going to a MAGA rally. If you're sending your kids off to a liberal college, or, you know, you're not keeping an eye on your kids. Disney is wicked now. Nickelodeon is wicked. This is not the 1990s anymore. I'm not a parent, so I don't want to be a hypocrite, but keep a close eye on your kids, because this world is sick. It's way sicker than it was when I grew up. And it's only getting sicker, because as the left gets sicker and sicker and sicker, the right gets sicker and sicker and sicker too. And things that used to be a taboo stance in the Democratic Party 5 years ago, 10 years ago, is now a mainstream stance in the Republican Party. They cave and fold like a lawn chair, socially, economically, literally, medically, on every angle. So I would say keep a close eye on your kids, because it's sick what's happening in this country. And I think people think that Donald Trump is going to save them or something, but I think he's folding like a lawn chair, just like a lot of these people. And the more that they push this product, I think the more people get it, and they get this like vaccine supremacy sort of thing. I know dozens of people who got it who don't act that way, but I'm also noticing more and more and more that these people who get it are ready to send you to the gulag and say, if you don't get it, I don't want you around. I think you should lose access to stuff. You know, this is what they're going to push here, and they're going to do it through the corporations. But if enough people get it, you know, I think that's going to happen. And I guess I'll watch what I say because I know everything they're doing here. But Thomas Massie, who's a Republican, check out his Twitter feed because he's talking a lot about variants. He's talking a lot about et cetera. But we've always known, and I'm not super into the science of this, so I don't want to overspeak. But if you look at variants and all this stuff with flu and et cetera, some people would say, and I mean, even I think Bill Gates would have said a few years ago, certain viruses tend to mutate once you have certain medication out there. This has been known for 30, 40, 50 years. Bill Gates used to talk about it all the time. So it's like if you have a medicine that kills the virus or kills the sickness, that's one thing. But if over time, a lot of them mutate, and if it doesn't 100% kill it, they tend to mutate. I mean, I've seen a Bill Gates speech saying the exact same thing. So I do find it interesting that they're blaming everybody about the variant, where I'm thinking in my head, if there is a variant and your product didn't plan for the variant, is that everybody else's fault or is that your product's fault? Shouldn't you have planned for the variant? Shouldn't you have planned for mutations? Because this is not the first time that we've seen variants or mutations. I mean, this is like mainstream science when it comes to medicine. They've talked about this for 100 years. And you're acting as if like it's everyone's fault, like you didn't know that a virus could mutate or there could be a variant. That's just total nonsense. You know, these people have been so scientifically, I would say, I don't know if inaccurate is the right word, but not genuine with the narratives they've been pushing, and they've been ignoring the most common sense scientific stuff that we've known for hundreds of years and acting like it's not a thing. So we'll see how this plays out. But I think Thomas Massie is one politician who does a really good job kind of breaking it down, and he has, I believe, some sort of science degree. So he speaks in language that they would understand easier. I want to talk about real quick, and then I'll answer some questions. Thank you guys for being here. It's so hot in Dubai that the government is artificially creating rainstorms. I didn't say that. CBS said it. This is mainstream CBS News. It says Dubai rain seed clouding. With temperatures in Dubai regularly surpassing 115 degrees Fahrenheit, the government has decided to take control of the scorching weather. Scientists in the United Arab Emirates are making it rain artificially, using electrical charges from drones to manipulate the weather and force rainfall across the desert nation. Meteorological officials released video footage this week showing a downpour over Ras Al Khaimah, as well as several other regions. The new method of cloud seeding shows promise and help to mitigate drought conditions worldwide without as many environmental concerns as previous methods involving salt flares. So they're touting this new way of cloud seeding with drones that I guess is not common, that they didn't do in the past. And I've done videos on geoengineering because when it comes to climate change and when it comes to environmentalism, I'm always confused why liberals don't talk about geoengineering. You're talking about changing the climate, but you're acting as if humans can't change the climate. When if you go on Wikipedia, you can research cloud seedings for the last 100 years. There's government websites with these government agencies that are involved in weather manipulation. It's on their website that they've been doing this since Vietnam. It's in the New York Times. I've done whole videos referencing mainstream news over the past 70 years where they've been talking about not only can they do this, but they have done it. So if you're going to talk about climate change, we could talk about carbon, we could talk about plants, we could talk about trees, we could talk about gas, we could talk about, emissions. I'm not afraid of that, but how come they never talk about geoengineering and climate manipulation? Because a lot of this stuff, they're not looking for solutions. Of course, you could plant a lot of trees. Of course, they have machines now that pull carbon out of the air. Of course, they have cloud seeding technology. Of course, there's people, as these people are crying and marching, are working on solutions to the problems that they claim that we have, but they don't want to talk about solutions because when you have a solution, then all of a sudden you can't control people. If you have a solution, you probably don't need a carbon tax to put a global tax on the whole world. If you have a solution, You probably don't need to shut down nuclear power and gas power and move towards electric power and controlling everything on the grid. If you have a solution, you can't control people as easy. So I find that although I do think the climate is changing, because just look outside, daytime, nighttime, dark, light, summer, winter, spring, fall, over the years, ice caps melt, ice caps grow. The climate is changing. There's no doubt about it. But this idea that it's a catastrophe, that we're all going to die, and the only way to do it is to stop eating meat, it's never been real. There are people working on solutions as we speak to all this stuff. And I think the most important thing about it is there at least needs to be a conversation about it. Because if you are not allowed to question if the weather's being manipulated, if you're not allowed to question the faulty science of these people who told you that the polar ice caps were going to melt in 2003, then in 2020, they put national glacier signs saying these are going to be gone by 2020. It's 2021. They're not gone. They actually had to go replace the signs at National Glacier Park. And there's a CNN article about it because they were wrong. So it's not like they have 100% accuracy. They don't. They should be questioned. They should allow scientists and anybody with a brain and common sense to have an intellectual debate with them, but they don't. This is their way of shutting down dissent, and it's never been honest, and it's not honest now. So before I talk about India, I don't know which weather's being manipulated or not. Obviously, Dubai is. Obviously, I know our past. We need to have a conversation about it because America right now is an open door to foreign and domestic enemies just taking advantage of us, because in our country, you're not even allowed to question a lab leak theory, even though there's a lot of truth to it. For a year, I got censored, demonetized. They went after my page in multiple different ways. I'm fine now, but in general, why? Because I did accurate reporting on the reality of man-made viruses that exist. I didn't make up a fake claim about COVID-19. I didn't do stupid reporting like a lot of people. I did accurate reporting of things from the past in which people have patents on. I did accurate reporting of things from the present that people are doing. I didn't say I knew if this one came from a lab or not. I didn't say this one was patented or not. I just said, this is the reality that you can make man-made viruses. This is the reality of an article that Newsweek wrote about gain-of-function research last year. That's all I did, and they penalized me for it. So what message does that send to enemies, domestic and foreign? If they can do anything to America, whether it be from a lab, whether it be from a virus, whether it be weather manipulation and these 5-dimensional chess war techniques that are probably going to make their way into America, because they already have. America, Google America, Vietnam, cloud seeding. There's New York Times articles saying that America was trying this type of weather manipulation back in Vietnam. I remember reading that a couple months ago. So it's not like this can't possibly happen and it's a conspiracy theory. It has happened. It almost definitely will happen again. And what happens if our citizens and our journalists and our people that are content creators are not even allowed to question it? That just sends a green light to the rest of the world and enemies in America to say, you can do whatever you want to America. It's open season, whether it be via virus, whether it be geoengineer, whether it be social subversion using, ethnic groups that you're not allowed to question. It's open season on America because the journalists there will be smeared by their own media. And I know this video went viral of Ashton Kutcher recently, where he was talking about TikTok. And he said, I'm concerned with TikTok because China could manipulate the algorithms to turn people against America. He's totally right. But here's what Ashton Kutcher didn't say, and no Republican said that retweeted him. I love what he said. He's totally right. But there's actually social media companies that hate America and are working against America even more than TikTok. TikTok is owned by China, communist China. They don't like America. But what's crazier is the fact that we have Facebook, American-owned company, Google, American-owned company, YouTube, owned by Google, Instagram, owned by Facebook, and Twitter, owned by Jack Dorsey, all of which who have a policy in which they work against America even harder than TikTok does. So the problem is not the enemy that you know is not your friend. The problem is your own companies and your own industries that are working against you harder than a country that literally probably wants you dead or under their control. So to me, that's the big problem. And that's like when right-wingers talk about China with the virus, it's like, I have no problem talking about it. I have no problem talking about the Wuhan lab. I agree with you. However, did China force Donald Trump to do 15 days to slow the spread? Did China force Ron DeSantis to sell mRNA jabs that aren't even available on Chinese markets? They have yet to release an mRNA vaccine to their citizens. I don't know if you knew that, but look it up. They're working on it and testing it slowly. How come America got it out so quick, but China wanted to wait a year? Is China stupid? I don't think so. I think that they're being patient, like most people. But anyway, it's like, did China force you to print $5 trillion? No, this is the game they play. The left blames the right blames the left, the right blames China, and it's all of them. They're all doing it. It's just they want you to think that they're fighting the enemy, when if you look at, a lot of these labs, et cetera, it was a combination of American money, American laboratories, and Chinese laboratories. So it's all this big game that they throw you in circles to act like they're fighting the system when they're all really working hand in hand in general. But the big point I want to make is we have to be able to question this type of stuff, or else someone could do weather technology, get away with it, and no one would be able to question it. I'm not saying that happened in India, because I have no idea and I haven't studied it that much, but I did find it fascinating while I was looking up the Dubai rain technology. Heavy rain in India triggers floods and landslides, at least 120 people dead. Rescue teams in India struggled through thick sludge, said Reuters, and debris on Saturday to reach dozens of submerged homes, as the death toll from landslides and accidents caused by torrential monsoon rain rose 125. So here's the thing. I'm not familiar with India. I don't know how much it rains. Is this normal? Is it not? I have no idea. I don't know that much about India, let alone the weather there. I like the people. I like the food. I like the music. I like etc. But I don't know that much about, seasons and how hot and cold it gets and how much rainfall they have. However, when that thing hit in Texas, right, that was very strange. It never gets that cold in Texas, and all of a sudden it's getting cold. I'm not saying that somebody did it. I have no idea. I have no proof of that. That's not what I'm saying. But do people not realize on the left and the right, but especially the left, do they not realize how dangerous it is when the elites and the governments are admitting they have technology to manipulate the weather? That's a fact. They have it. They're using it. They've been using it. That's not a right-wing anti-Semitic conspiracy. It's a fact. It really is happening, and they're reporting it to CBS. So if that is the fact, do people not see how dangerous it is to say, you can't question that, but we're just going to call everything climate change? So if it gets hotter, it's climate change. If it gets colder, it's climate change. If it rains too much, it's climate change. If there's a monsoon, it's climate change. If there's a drought, it's climate change. And the only way to beat climate change is to give us more of your taxpayer dollars and to switch to electric vehicles that will eventually have a monopoly on. That's the only way. You can't do it through private property. Just give it up and, we'll fight climate. It's like, but you're not allowed to question weather manipulation. And this is a solution. I'm not saying it can happen, but if there's a drought somewhere and they now have a technology to make it rain with less environmental effects, maybe that's a solution. That's called innovation. Maybe we can make it rain in California like Dubai did, and now we don't have a drought anymore. And now we don't have to give up our taxpayer dollars to Gavin Newsom and Jeff Bezos so he could fly to the moon and thank us or whatever. He's like, thank you, Amazon customers. I'm like, no, I'm sure you used your own money on that. But in general, they're talking about funding Blue Origin for like millions or billions of dollars. It's like, bro, you don't have enough money. Why do you need government subsidies to do your little 60 miles in the air thing and act like you went outside Earth's atmosphere? If you need, like, give me $10 and let me go buy a cheesesteak. If you give Jeff Bezos billions of dollars with taxpayer money, just give me $20 or just don't tax me 1 year and I'll go on vacation. But anyway, I could dream, can I? We have to be able to question it. I don't know. You don't know. If they don't allow us to question weather manipulation and lab leaks, etc., this is green lighting people to just do whatever they want. And that's a lot of political correctness. I know George Carlin had a famous quote about it. Political correctness is fascism with manners is what he said. Call it what you want, communism, etc. All of this is a way to stop people from questioning them. They use racial groups. Why did they love Black Lives Matter so much? And I understand Black Lives Matter. There are things that are overdue in this country. It's okay to address racial tension, but Black Lives Matter, if you follow their founders, they are started by Marxists and trained Marxists. And you can go to the people who train them, listen to them talk, and you'll realize this has a lot to do with political ideology. This has a lot to do with Marxism. And I have the book next to me, Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto. He wanted total control of government, total control over transportation, total control over workers, no private property. He thought the family was bad. He didn't want, religion. And he also wanted control over communications and media. So it's a control system. We control everything. You control nothing. That's who founded Black Lives Matter. That's what they believe in. That's why they're putting them on the NFL. Why? Because Marxism is not popular. If you put Marxism with Karl Marx's face on it, nobody wants to do it. Cubans in this country hate communism. They hate communism more than most people. A lot of people from Europe escaped communism. A lot of people from South America escaped communism. Communism is not popular, so you have to mask it in Black Lives Matter and Bernie Sanders, democratic socialism, give it names. And Black Lives Matter is perfect, because if you disagree with it, what are you? Are you smart and educated and well-researched? No, they'll call you what? A racist. You're racist. You just don't care about Black people. Now, you know who doesn't care about Black people? Liberal politicians and liberal media who only care when it happens in a rich neighborhood. Look at DC. Bunch of people got shot in a nice DC area. All of a sudden they care about it. What about when 100 Black people got murdered in the hood in Washington, DC? They don't give a shit because it doesn't affect them. So they don't care if thousands of Black people get slaughtered every year, which they do in these communities, because there's no angle for them to fundraise off it. It doesn't happen in their rich neighborhood, so they don't give a shit. And also there's no political angle. Well, if it wasn't a white cop that can really raise $100 million and put people in the streets burning stuff, why should we report it? I mean, it's just one guy killing a child. That happens all the time in cities like Chicago. And they don't want to cover it because there's no angle. They need an anti-white angle, an anti-cop angle, or God forbid, it goes from the south side of Chicago to the nice side of Chicago, or the rundown area of DC to the nice area where all the politicians like to eat and hang out. Now all of a sudden they care. So who's the real racist? I'm not trying to be like a generic right winger, be like, you're the real homophobe. I'm just saying these people don't give a crap about Black people, but Black Lives Matter is the perfect organization to push their ideology of control, corporate and government, whether you're left wing or right wing. It's the corporations, it's the government. Spoiler alert, it's both of them, and they're merging. Apple, Amazon, you think they're fighting the government? No, they're getting probably subsidies. So Jeff Bezos can wear a cowboy hat and launch himself into the air 60, 70 miles and act like he broke the atmosphere. Nobody even does the research to know how high he went. So that's what they're doing. And it's the same with conspiracy theories, anti-vaxxer, far right-wing protests in France. It's not a far right-wing protest. They just have a buzzword for everything. And same with the weather technology. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not anti-climate change. They really have weather manipulation technology, and this needs to be a part of the conversation somewhere, because there are solutions in weather manipulation. I mean, you could do damage, but you could also do good. They don't want solutions. A solution means everything's calm. Everything's calm means everything's peaceful. When things are peaceful and calm, nobody wants to give up their freedom. Nobody wants to they need a scenario. For instance, when it came to Bill Cosby and Brett Kavanaugh, although wildly different situations, I would say Brett Kavanaugh's case was way weaker. But in general, what did they convince people to do? Well, you love women, right? Of course. You believe women. Yeah, of course. I love women. I believe women. They got people to not even believe in due process. So now if you can manipulate people's emotions, you can get them to think that person's guilty, even though I don't even know what the trial's about. I'm not even looking over the information. I don't care about the evidence. I want them to go to jail right now because I heard things on the media, and it feels good, but normally no one would say, yeah, of course you have a right to a fair trial. Everybody has the right to a fair trial. But if you can manipulate people's emotions enough, all of a sudden half the country doesn't believe in one of the amendments anymore. They don't, no, that I heard that. So that's what that person needs to go because I heard something about them. That's not how the court system works. These are the games they play with race, with gender, with sexuality. And I think before I end this stream and get to questions, I think conservatives would be wise to stop just like giving up ground, playing along, and running in circles around people that clearly don't care about them. Because in America, the Republican Party and Donald Trump, to be fair, vaccine passports and standing against this type of tyranny, it's not their number one issue. It's not their number two issue. It's not their number three issue. It's not their number four issue. And it's not their number five issue. In fact, I can almost guarantee you that Donald Trump will not mention it at all today in his speech. Maybe he'll mention it for 2 seconds at least and spend far more time bragging about how it was him who bought the vaccines in the first place. So you have a group of people running circles around a guy who wants to talk about 2017 and how black unemployment was low, and not even mention that in 2020, that all went south and we turned into a socialist country, that there's so many people on welfare right now because of the bipartisan lockdowns that it's hard to even employ people anymore because they're getting paid more on government subsidies and programs than they would if they worked. So you have millions of kids who don't even want to go into the workforce because Republicans caved on socialism. So how are we going to solve this issue when everybody's running in circles around the vaccine salesman who doesn't even care as a top 5 or 6 issue? He's going to talk about the audit. He's going to talk about the wall. He's going to brag about himself. He's going to talk about Sleepy Joe. He's not going to mention the most pressing issue in the world, because I'm sorry, but at this point, it seems a lot more to me like a dog and pony show than it does an actual stance for freedom. It's just running conservatives and Christians in circles as they send you in the same direction as the left. And I'll say one more thing. If you followed up for my last video yesterday, Ron DeSantis has a problem with Ben & Jerry's because Ben & Jerry are 2 Jewish businessmen from America. However, they want to pull their ice cream out of Israeli settlements where they settled in areas of Palestine or whatever. So they're doing a protest, and Ron DeSantis actually went to Israel to pass a bill to basically say it's illegal to boycott or protest Israel. And they said, oh, it's a religious bill for, religious schools, but no, it's not really. And same Trump and all them passed it. So now he's trying to put sanctions on Ben & Jerry's. Google sanctions Ron DeSantis. An American politician is trying to put sanctions on an American company, on American citizens, because they want to pull their products out of a certain area in the Middle East. That's who the Republican Party is. They're emboldened to Israel. They're emboldened to Big Pharma, and you come third, maybe. There is no America First movement. It is Zionism first, Israel first, Big Pharma second, and then maybe we'll throw you a few crumbs after we implement socialism and then tell you we're going to fight socialism. That's who the Republican Party is. I probably don't need to tell you who the Democratic Party is because they're clearly not going to save you. But this is the binary thinking they have people. Well, what are you going to vote for, Biden? No. Well, what are you going to vote for them? It's like, yeah, I get what you're saying. I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden, but that doesn't mean that going to a MAGA rally is going to help you. When Donald Trump, probably with Operation Warp Speed, helped Pfizer and Moderna and Johnson & Johnson more than anybody ever has. So as people's kids and grandkids are overdosing on opioids and fentanyl, and you have record level suicides and record level overdoses, I'm sorry, but it's going to take a little bit more than going to a vaccine salesman's rally who talks about his accomplishments from 2017, doesn't mention that they all disappeared in 2020 when he caved to lockdowns, and he ended up funneling money to Big Pharma, as Big Pharma is largely responsible for a lot of opioid deaths, and it's not even hidden information. There's mainstream articles where they're settling $26 billion settlements. So as he's bragging about being like a salesman for that industry. So, I don't mean to be rude, but if you care about the future of your kids and your grandkids, you got to at some point tap out of this little sick dog and pony show and hold your politicians and your people accountable, or else they're just going to disappoint you again. I'm going to do something real quick, and then I'm really done. I just want to read 2 different people's, and I know they live in 2 different states, but 2 governor hopefuls with 2 different rhetoric, and you tell me which one is stronger to you. This is Vernon Jones. He was running in Georgia. He said, no more masks, no more mandates, no more lockdowns, period. Okay, that's a strong statement. No more masks, no more mandates, no more lockdowns. This is Larry Elder, who potentially I could vote for, but not at this rate. On his website campaign, it still says, I will always be with you. If you can't go into a restaurant, neither will I. If you must wear a mask, so will I. That's not strong. That's weak. Vernon Jones, stronger. So people love this stuff. They're, Larry. It's like if they can't even take a strong stance against it now, what do you think they're going to do in 3 or 6 months when actually push comes to shove? These people don't care about what you think they care about. I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm not wishing ill on them. God bless them. You just think they care about you so much, and they really don't. They're not tapped into what the people are dealing with. If they were, they would be leading protests like they are in France and Italy, because it's not just there that they're rolling out the vaccine passport. There's millions of people and millions of Trump supporters who wanted to not opt out of this experimental mRNA situation, and they're being forced to get it or fired from work. I know at least a dozen people who are being threatened with being fired, but there is no party in America that's really fighting for them hard, because they're running in circles around the guys who are selling those and shoving them down your throat. So there's a little issue going on here. And I'll tell you what, some of the biggest anti-lockdown protesters that would have been leading nationwide or statewide anti-lockdown protests right now, guess where they are? Either laying low or in jail, because they got in trouble for following Donald J. Trump, the vaccine salesman, to the Capitol on January 6th. All of the biggest right-wing organizers who would have been doing what Italy and France and Greece are doing right now, all of these organizers that would have been at the lead of the anti-lockdown protests, they all went to the Capitol because they thought Donald Trump was going to give them something and Mike Pence was going to, and they all got in trouble. And they're all laying low, facing court cases, or in general just don't want to go out anymore because they've dealt with so much crap this 6 months for following him there. So, there's another reason why it's not happening in America, because all of the biggest organizers got set up on January 6th. And I don't think the Republican Party really cares that much. I really don't. I think they care about selling vaccines. I think they care about bending over for Israel and doing 20 times as much for that country than they'd ever do for America, including putting sanctions on American citizens for the crime of their First Amendment right to pretty much do what they want. This is the Republican Party. I know it's been unpopular when I've said it, but more and more people are realizing, because it's what it is. And I've said a lot of this stuff since 2019. You can ignore it to your own peril because it's going to happen. And when it does, that's where we're at. Someone said, I'm going to read this. Robin said, you're wrong just reading one line from a website to judge a candidate. Larry Elder is a strong conservative. Well, here's what I'll say. I have a platform. I'm a tax-paying citizen. I'm a resident of California, and I'm a voter. I'm a Republican registered voter. The biggest issue we're facing in our country, in our state, but mostly our country, is mandatory vaccination, mandatory forced masking, and forced inoculation. These are the biggest issues that concern me personally. And I would say if you can't stop those, you're not going to be able to conserve anything. You're not going to be able to conserve the economy. They are going to destroy you. So if you don't have any statement on your website that has any sort of strength in that position, and you have this little joke that caves of, you have to wear a mask, I will, I don't want to vote for you. I'm not judging. What am I supposed to judge his campaign off of? What? He's writing something and I'm reading what he wrote and I'm not impressed. He's just like, no offense, every other boomer, MAGA supporter, Fox News watching, generic conservative that can't conserve anything. This is why we don't conserve anything. They cry about the younger generation that's further right. It's like, oh, well, Larry, what is he doing? He's like a Sean Hannity. He says what you want to hear. He toes the party line. He makes no stance that's not generic. And he probably has no plan on what to do about this stuff because he doesn't care. He doesn't care because you guys eat it up. You watch the show and he's like, I'm going to fight critical race theory. And they're like, this guy's really going to stick it to the Democrats. Like, yeah, sure. But if you can't take a hardline stance against forced masking and forced inoculation, I don't want to vote for you. And I don't think other people should. But they'll never do anything because nobody stands up to them. Why would they stop doing what they're doing? Last year, it wasn't just Democrats. Almost every single Republican locked their state down. Almost every single Republican signed off on the CARES Act. I think everyone did but Thomas Massie, which printed trillions of dollars in a socialist communist scam that's so far left. AOC was like, wow, finally someone did what I did. That's what your Republican Party did. So they're not doing anything. And what do you guys do about it? What do you say about it? You just sit there and go to their rallies and clap for them and say good job. So they're making a fortune. They're making millions of dollars off the fact that you guys clap like seals when they don't do anything. They don't conserve anything. They're conserving their money. They're conserving their power. They're conserving their Fox News interviews. They're conserving their One America News Network and Newsmax features, but they're not conserving anything for the future generations. They're conserving nothing. And then they gatekeep their position like Sean had. Oh, you guys are too far. You guys are the real homophobes. It's like, what? What are you guys even talking about? So it's not going to work, but whatever. Someone said, I will vote for him if he actually puts a hardline stance down, but I'm not impressed with the rhetoric. And this is what they do. They cave, they sell vaccines, and then you guys clap for him. So they have no incentive to stop the dog and pony show because Republicans love it. Ted Cruz pretty much said that he was okay with unvaccinated people being forced to wear a mask on an airplane and only taking it off for vaccinated people. Ted Cruz is a vaccine supremacist, and people clap for him at Turning Point USA. People love the dog and pony show. Let's clap for these people that don't give a crap about us. I'm telling you, you can say what you could get so mad at me, but at a certain point, you're going to realize it. Someone said, wondering who you're leaning towards, if not Cali and Elder, my home state. I think Larry Elder has the best chance. Honestly, I think he's by far the biggest candidate. But this is what people don't understand. I made a video calling out his stupid rhetoric on his website. He responded within 24 hours. I'm no offense, and I'm not trying to blame a certain age group, but I'm so tired for these do-nothing people who did nothing for 50 years. I'm only 30 years old, and I'm out here getting a response from the top leading Republican governor in 24 hours because I have a spine. You see that? That's a spine. That's called somebody who doesn't just roll over. It's like you guys go to a MAGA concert, your kids and grandkids are dying of opioids, Trump's selling vaccines and keeping Johnson & Johnson afloat, and you think you're fighting the radical left by calling them the real homophobes. It's like you're not doing crap. And then when I finally do something, I get an instant response from Larry Elder. Imagine if millions of MAGA did what I did, had a spine, stood up against their candidates, and actually said this is too weak. Guess what would happen? The Republican Party wouldn't be weak anymore, but they are weak because you guys swallow up the dog and pony show and you cry when I actually stand up for myself. And then I blocked Trump's stupid email list, Save America Super PAC, and he still emails me. We need you to save the country, save America. Give me money. Give me. It's like, bro, why? Give you money so you could shut the country down and funnel money to Pfizer and Moderna? Like, no, block. I don't want your stupid emails. And people will just give them millions of dollars. Like, they're fighting the radical left. They're not fighting anybody. Someone said that's awesome that he's responsive. This is important. It's not hard to get a response out of somebody. It's because I have a big enough platform that if I say something about Larry Elder, hundreds of thousands of people see it, and it gets too big for him to ignore. If he wants to be the governor of California, he has to listen to his constituents, and he has to listen to the conservative base. The problem is nobody has a spine, so they get clapped and they don't do anything. They shut the country down just like the Democrats did last year. They printed trillions of dollars just like the Democrats did last year. They funneled money to big pharma. Do you know one of the biggest reasons that your kids are dying and one of the biggest reasons that life expectancy is going backwards is because kids are overdosing on pills, many of which is legal, and Donald Trump and the Republican Party are funneling money to those same industry as your kids and grandkids are dying, and you just sit there and clap like seals for these people? Why would they ever do anything different? They're like, our base is so stupid, we can literally become communists and they'll still think we're fighting socialism. That's what they think of you. They walk all over you like a doormat, just like Bernie Sanders did to his supporters, because the supporters are that pathetic. It's like, we can literally become full-blown communists and they'll still show up and they'll still won't question me and they'll still cry about anomalies videos, okay? So that's why they don't do anything. Yes, I got a response from Larry Elder because that's how easy it is. If these influencers that you follow actually use their influence to actually say something important, they would get a response too. If I can do it, so can 20,000 other people who have bigger audiences than I do. They just don't because they're team players. I want to go to CPAC. I want to be the big boy who speaks next to Scott Presler. It's like, cool. Scott Presler's a super nice guy, but in general, it's like at a certain point, does anybody have a spine? They don't care because they go, they wear suits, they get paid, they sit in a hotel. Everybody comes up to them and says, you're so great, you're saving America. And they're like, totally, yeah, I am. And then they're like, Operation Warp Speed is a huge success. I mean, the only way to stop your kids from dying of opioids is funneling money to failing Johnson & Johnson because, you know, we're sticking it to Kamala Harris. She's the real anti-vaxxer. I mean, they don't even like Richard Cornell. They're the real homophobes. And you guys sit there and just throw your money at these people and clap like seals. So they have no reason to conserve anything because they're conserving their identity as somebody who gets paid 6-7 figures a year to run around and conserve nothing. It's called a gatekeeper. They sit there, say a bunch of generic, critical race theory is racist. The left is the real racist. Operation Warp Speed's a huge success. I mean, we really stuck it to the left by funneling money to big pharma. I mean, yeah, only Trump would have done that. Not everyone would have done that. This is not some radical thing he thought of. He just gave money to the most corrupt industry in America. Oh, well, Kamala was against the vaccine. And yeah, because they're all just playing everybody for a fool. Nobody knows what to believe anymore because they're like, we're fighting the radical left. You are the radical left. You became the radical left. And at a certain point, there's hundreds of thousands of people dying from overdoses and opioids. And the Republican Party is a salesman for that industry. They're acting like it's the greatest thing. Go back to the 1920s and 1930s. Look at pictures of America. Everyone's wearing a suit. Everybody's in shape. Look at America now. half the country's obese on 3 to 4 to 5 pills. Okay. This industry is making a fortune off the fact that people are just not taking care of themselves anymore. So, everybody goes in the streets for the Milwaukee Bucks, but their kids are being forced inoculated and they don't even want to get up off the couch. So how are you going to save a society when people are this pathetic? No offense, but it's like Trump's not going to save you. DeSantis isn't going to save you. How are these people going to save you? They don't care. They're not doing it. It's just nice to feel like someone else is going to pick up the slack that nobody wanted to do. It's like, you got to save yourself. If you're letting your kids go to a liberal college for $100,000 to go into debt, to come back with their head shaved and be a total psychopath who hates you and your parents, then at a certain point, you got to take accountability. Trump's not going to stop that. Stop sending your kids there. Stop allowing this stuff to happen. Stop clapping for politicians who are funneling money to the industry that is the most, complicit in our life expectancy going backwards. The dream was always to give your kids and give your grandkids a better life than you had. And I'm grateful. I had great parents. I had great grandparents, and they gave me a great life. And I'm forever grateful for it. And for the first time in the world, it's going the other way. Your kids and your grandkids are not going to have a better life than I had for the first time ever. And the reason is both parties are complicit in the destruction of America. If you look at Christian laws and Christian life, it was way different in the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s, and it declines and it declines and it declines. And now you have a situation that Barack Obama wouldn't even dare speak when he got into office because it was too taboo in a Christian nation, to Donald Trump waving a homophobe or whatever, the LGBT flag, and saying you're a homophobe if you don't like Richard Grenell. Like, that's what you're conserving. And I'm not blaming Richard Grenell or Trump. I'm just saying socially, you're clearly not conserving anything. Fiscally, economic, like what's being conserved? The only thing that's being conserved is CPAC and TPUSA events where they make a fortune and people go and clap on people that don't give a shit about them. That's the only thing that's being conserved. And I'm not blaming Charlie Kirk. And I have a lot of friends who work for TPUSA. It's all love, but at a certain point, you got to stop clapping for these people. You're funneling money to the dog and pony show, and they know damn well that they're not actually doing anything. They're doing just enough to make you feel like they're fighting the left while they're throwing us down the river. And when it comes to Larry Elder, great guy, but I'm sorry, he just reminds me of every other boomer conservative that is ill-equipped to handle the COVID era. Rand Paul's a little bit better at it. Thomas Massie is by far the best politician when it comes to the COVID crisis. If these boomer Republican Fox News hosts don't understand what to do, it's just a big show for them. I'm going to fight the critical race theory. Yeah, oh, sure you are, bro. Oh, I'm going to wear a mask like you. You wear a mask with me. And it's like, yeah, dude, like, how about you actually grow a spot? Do something, say something. That's not connecting with me. Someone said, what was his response? Well, he tweeted out that he's against forced masking of children and he would never do it, which is awesome. But then he went and registered and said, I had to wear a mask because they forced me to. Gavin Newsom forced me to. And there's other candidates who signed and they didn't wear a mask. Here's the thing. Some people don't care that much. I get it. Some Republicans are totally fine with vaccine passports. Some Republicans love the mask and they don't want to take it off, or they think you should wear it. I get it. But that's not for me. So I think he's that type of person. He doesn't care that much. He'd rather go and speak and get paid and talk about critical race theory and growing up as a Black conservative, which is cool. He's really good at that. He's awesome. I've heard him speak. He's a very great speaker when he's talking about that. But if he doesn't understand the COVID era, he's not going to be able to help you or me. And that's Trump. Trump either was in on it the whole time and just sold us out, or he just has that boomer Fox mentality where he has no idea what he's doing. Oh, he got misled. Well, why are you following a leader that's not even leading themselves? No, well, he was following someone, Ivanka. It's like, okay, so you're following a leader who doesn't even lead themselves and you're admitting isn't walking in the right direction. So what does that say about you? Red King 23, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Someone said Trump tried to do something and look what happened to him. If you feel this strongly, throw your hat in the ring. Sandy, you don't need to run for office to do this stuff. If you took that energy, God bless you. If you took that energy of making excuses for tyranny and you just said no, this all would have been over in April. But this is the Republican Party. This is MAGA. Let's just sit on Facebook and make excuses for tyranny. Let's make up every excuses under the sun for what. That's all you do. You sit on the couch and you think that Trump's going to save your life. Trump's not going to save you. DeSantis isn't going to save you. They're probably not even going to try to save you. And you're going to spend 5 years making excuses for why they didn't, instead of being the reason that they're not allowed to do it. How come I could get a response out of Larry Elder in 24 hours? Because I have a spine, because I don't just sit on Facebook making excuses for Republicans. That's what these other Republicans do. That's why they get booked for CPAC and TPUSA, because they all say the same exact thing on loop and catch you in a loop so you don't even know what's going on anymore. They're not talking about the top 4 issues in the country. Oh, well, we're going to build the wall. It's like, cool. Yeah, build the wall. But what about medical tyranny? What about forced inoculation? It took them a year to figure out what they were doing. So this is why they do it. You don't have to run for office. Just stop allowing it and stop justifying it. Just stop. This is why everything goes left, because the conservatives can't conserve anything. They get so mad at Bryson Gray. I don't know if you know Bryson Gray. He's a Christian conservative rap artist who takes a hardline stance of what the Bible says. I mean, he's just a Christian. I mean, he believes the second half of the Bible and he believes the first half of the Bible. Why is he the number one enemy of the right wing? I mean, a lot of people like him, but they're calling him a homophobe. They're calling him a this. They're calling him a that. He's too far right because he believes what the Bible says. America used to believe what the Bible says. America doesn't believe what the Bible says anymore. Almost virtually no biblical laws are still in place in America today. So your country's going to hell. I'm sorry, but Donald Trump waving a rainbow flag is not going to save you. He tried his best. His best was not good enough. So either you're going to sit there and watch your country fail and just wait for heaven, or you're going to identify the issues and say, you know what, maybe we could turn this around. But you're not going to turn it around the way it's going because the Republican Party's further left than the Democratic Party was 7 years ago. Obama didn't even have these stances. So that's the Republican Party. All they do is lose. All they do is lose ground, lose money, lose support. That's all they do. We're a big tent. We want everybody. What about these guys who challenge you from the right wing and want to talk about Israel and homosexuality? Oh, no, those are the real anti-Semites and the homophobes. We got to kick them out of the party. So what are you a big tent for? You're a big tent for the left, but you're a small tent for the right. Guess what happens when you're a big tent for the left and a small tent for the right? You're not a big tent. You're just another liberal party. You're a party that pretends to stand for something, doesn't stand for anything, and does just enough to get votes, but not enough to actually conserve the country. Someone said, I live by the Bible. I mean, I'm just saying, if you look at certain laws, like America's getting more degenerate and more immoral. And if you see what happens, like at a certain point, you take away this, you take away this, you take away this, and you end up like Los Angeles. I live there. It's the devil's city, okay? Every billboard is satanic. Every billboard is the most debaucherous, degenerate thing. And I'm not even that big of a prude, but it's like gay vodka, get wasted with an LGBT flag, devil movie, like worshiper witchcraft, like it's satanic. The whole city's satanic. You can't find an ad. It's all just literally do this and drink alcohol, do this and watch this witchcraft show, do this and it's disgusting. Every billboard's disgusting. Like that's what Sodom and Gomorrah looks like. It's like a country with no morals, no rules. It's disgusting. And the Republicans are on a slow roll to that. Like they don't take a stand for anything. Someone said, move. I did move. I don't live in LA anymore, and you couldn't pay me enough to go there. I did move. Someone said, Los Angeles is disgusting. I'm sorry to say that's my hometown. You're 100% right. This is like, I know people don't want to hear it, but the winning narrative for the right is not to become the left. Tell them to stay there. No offense to you, but like, if you want to wear a mask, if you want to be force inoculated, if you want a passport, if you want this, stay there. Oh yeah, we're all so scary for sure. Don't come to Florida, whatever. Stay there. That's fine. Don't be open. Oh yeah, come here and bring that culture here. No, don't bring that here. We're not that. If you want that, stay in Los Angeles or San Francisco. Don't come here. I think that needs to be the messaging. No offense. We're not living in the same reality. Okay, well, we're going to sell the vaccines too. Cool. That's awesome. Congratulations, Ron DeSantis. You're the man. But in general, it's like, why are we going to pretend like we want the same things? We clearly don't. But the right wing is going to lose what they have because they don't actually stand for anything. Say, you want to live that way. We want to live that way. Stay there, and see how it works out. But stop bringing that here. But You know, I see areas that are nice and conservative. They're just declining. I don't like it. It's annoying because I feel like no one says anything. They're just like, oh, well, this is the way it's going to be. I'll just go to the Trump rally. It's like, okay. Someone said vaccine availability is good. Mandates are bad. Learn the difference and the difference between state and federal government. Well, DJ, Ron DeSantis and Trump, they're not accounting for what's going on right now. This was nothing about this vaccine rollout was optional. So if you want to act like this is like the flu vaccine, you're only lying to yourself. Well, they didn't mandate it. Well, they live in the same reality I did, and this is in 2018. So before the vaccine came out, you had nearly a 50-state lockdown in which almost every Republican governor caved for at least a month or two. You had Donald Trump overseeing that and giving them the thumbs up. You had Donald Trump telling them to lock down further, that it wasn't safe to open up right now. You had Donald Trump fund big pharma. You had Donald Trump only open up and tell people to open up as soon as this stuff started getting rolled out, because the whole goal was to scare the shit out of everybody, take their shit away, and only give their shit back when the vaccine came out. So acting like DeSantis and Trump didn't know what happened. Did they not live in America in March 2020? Of course they did, because they were in on it. So this idea, well, it's only federalism in the mandates. It's like, it's being mandated across all 50 states, in hospitals, in sports arenas, at games. There's a 50-state mask mandate on airplanes. So this is the Republican Party. Lose ground, lose freedom, lose control, lose power, lose capitalism, lose the free market, and then people will sit on YouTube and be like, well, normally know the difference. What difference? Yeah, this is different than 2019, and they were all in on it, and they all knew about it, and now they sit back and say, well, we're not mandating it. Well, they are, and 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 millions of businesses are starting to do it, and millions of companies are starting to do it. So are you just going to sit back and act like you're a libertarian now? It's funny how they're libertarians now, right? These are these guys. Well, normally it's not mandated. It's like, what? Where were the libertarians in March? How come Ron DeSantis wasn't a libertarian in March? How come Trump wasn't a libertarian in March? How come Governor Abbott wasn't a libertarian in March? They had no problem locking their states down. They had no problem doing a $2 trillion scam bill that's so far left that AOC would be blown away by it. They had no problem funneling money to big pharma. They had no problem telling you shouldn't open your gym or health facility or tattoo shop. So they were communists when it mattered. They were communists when they took it away. And all of a sudden, when we get it back and we're being threatened and held for ransom over a jab, now all of a sudden they're libertarians. And people like this, no spine. You see this? Spine. That's why I don't act like you. Yeah. Oh, we're libertarian. Yeah, they're communists when it matters and libertarians when it's time to actually do something about all the freedom they lost. Isn't that just interesting? That's the Republican Party, all right. Well, we're gonna balance the budget. First, we're just gonna destroy the budget, and then we're gonna let them win the election. And then once they do what we did, we're gonna tell them we're gonna balance the budget. They're not balancing shit. They're just impressing people that think that that's like impressive. Wendy said, you make great points, but you're only partially right. Okay, Wendy, you're fully right. Start your own Facebook page because you're so knowledgeable. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Wendy. I'm only partially right. I'm so sorry. I know your brain is just filled with so much more knowledge than me. You should start a Facebook page because you're right. You have the full truth in your head, and what I said is only partially correct. I mean, I'm a moron. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Someone said, I'm not sure if Trump and DeSantis are in on it. Listen, I'm not saying in on it. Like, look at what happened. You guys don't follow reality. So it's like, well, they did all this to us, but I don't know if they even meant to. I mean, heck, they might have just been confused. It's like, you're confused. This is why you lose. You spend time theorizing about why they took all your shit. You're like, well, when he was in on it, he wasn't in on it. I don't think it's like, this is why you lose. There are no brave people anymore. It's so sad. I'm not even that old. I don't even have kids, and I'm standing up for people's kids more than they are. It's like, anomaly, you're only partially right. I'm busy celebrating the Milwaukee Bucks, but when they force inoculate my kid that I just sent to a liberal school, I'm going to just sit on the couch and watch Sean Hannity. It's like, that's why you lose. That's why you don't conserve anything, because you're theorizing about why they did what they did instead of being an American and saying, never do what you did again. You shouldn't have done it then. And you owe everyone an apology for doing it then, because you buried us in a hole that is going to take 20 years at best to get out of what you buried us in. So they already did it. There is no theory about what they're doing or what they're in on. They already did it. Why are you like theorizing? It's like, well, maybe he got fooled. It's like, you got fooled into thinking that making excuses for it is a way to get out of it. Someone said accidental mask mandates. Oh yeah, they just slipped. It's accidental. They just slipped and the mask mandate just appeared. Yeah, it's totally accidental. Someone said Trump has denounced Fauci these days. Well, that's awesome. I mean, he only put him on television for a month, funneled billions of dollars to companies that the NIH has a joint patent on, like Moderna, and Bill Gates backed for 5-6 years, funneled money to Johnson & Johnson. Oh yeah, Trump's fighting Fauci by funneling money to Big Pharma, putting him on television every day, giving him a thumbs up when it mattered. And then all of a sudden, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months later, he's like, oh, that Fauci, I'm going to get him one day because he threw a pitch that was sideways. And everyone's like, MAGA, MAGA. It's like, he's not, it's a show. Maybe he made a mistake or something. It's like, this is MAGA. You just sit there and make excuses. They're like, man, he's really fighting Big Pharma by funding Big Pharma. The only way to stop communism is to start communism. You can't fight Fauci unless you fund Fauci and put him on television every day. And then it's like, do you guys not see yourself? It is a dog and pony show, and it's so obvious, but people just don't want to do anything. Like, I'm not even concerned. People are like, oh, you're so sad. I'm not sad because I do what I want to do. I live my life. I'm rewarded for the work I put in and the bravery that I have. And if some days it backfires, I'll take full accountability, and that's it. You know, life is short anyway. Regardless of what happens to me, unless something else happens with technology, I'm going to get older and older and older. And eventually my body's going to work worse than it did now. So we're all on that path to heaven. Hopefully we're all on that path of getting older. Why would I just sit here and make excuses for Donald Trump while my country's going to hell? It doesn't make any sense to me. It's like people are more obsessed with Donald Trump than they are their country, their family. It's like a cult. I could do a stream where I won't even mention him, but people don't just like, well, maybe it's like, who cares why they did it? You know, I'm going to reference Basilicos, which is a great Italian restaurant, okay, in Orange County. He didn't close down for a single day. Do you know why? Because his whole life isn't making excuses about Donald Trump. He is a man, and he did what he wanted to do, and he didn't want to shut down for a single day. Guess what would have happened if every Trump supporter did what he did? This never would have happened. Guess what happened if 20% of Trump's base did half of what he did? This never would have happened. But what happens when 99.9% of your base does nothing, stands for nothing, pushes back, not at all, and just sits on social media and makes excuses for the vaccine salesman? You get what you deserve. This country is going to hell, and it's not just the left wing throwing it to hell. The left wing is in a speed bullet train to hell, and you guys are in the caboose going half the speed to the same direction, and you love it, and you make excuses for it, and you just sit and theorize why it's happening instead of just saying no. The future is non-compliance, okay? If you say no, it all would have ended a year ago. But if you sit on Facebook and make excuses for the guy selling the jabs, then you get exactly what you deserve. I'm at peace with what's happening now. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. It hurt. I'm sick to my stomach watching them force kids to do things. I'm sick to my stomach watching them force athletes to do things. I'm sick to my stomach watching this country decline and the crime rising in these areas. But it's hard to say that this isn't justified. When you have a left that's as mentally ill as they are with their policy, and when you have a right that makes excuses like this, it's hard to say that this isn't justified. You're getting exactly what you want. This is what you want. Own it. It's not just the left. Someone said we need to focus on winning local elections, not federal and state. Then we can have sanctuary counties. I think starting in a community is a good start. Joe said these lives are becoming so repetitive. If someone debates a comment, you attack them, and back to the Trump complaints. We get it. Well, I must be an entertaining complainer because you guys are still here. We got over 2,000 people here. And despite it getting repetitive, you're here enough to know that I'm repeating myself. So, you know, I'm not saying I don't want you here because I appreciate you. But if you click the X, I go away. It's not like I went in your living room and forced you to watch me. No offense, because I do appreciate you and I appreciate everyone, but I don't even know who you are and you know who I am. So I'm not trying to be rude, but if you click the X, I'm gone. If you hit unfollow, I don't even exist. So the fact that you keep coming back for more maybe this is something that no one else is saying, and maybe this is something that everyone should be saying, and maybe although it hurts, maybe it's necessary in order to be productive. Or maybe I'm just an asshole. I don't know. You could decide. But either way, the X makes it all go away. That's the beauty of the internet. I'm not a terrorist. I don't show up at your living room and demand you watch me. That's for local and federal government to do. They do stuff like that. They tell you can't leave your house, and then you make excuses for why it happened. Straight up, Brando said, it's good you're pointing out the fact that leaders lead. Unfortunately, Trump tucked his tail, and many Republican committees keep donating to a party that, for the most part, doesn't care, like the Dems. Ty said, keep up the great work. Thank you. Well, it's funny seeing, I don't mean to be repetitive, but it's funny seeing the comments. They're like, he was misled. Well, think about the dynamic of following a leader that isn't even leading yourself, and you're admitting that they're not going in the right direction. That says a lot about how much you respect yourself. It all comes back to you. If you respect yourself, you're not going to put up with that. I saw this happen to the left. Bernie Sanders did a 180 on his supporters, and that really separated who actually was able to admit they got played and who was just a doormat. So anybody still supporting Bernie Sanders in 2022, it's like you're a doormat. You don't stand for anything, so you get exactly what you asked for. Trump is a different beast, but as soon as he kind of did what he did, and now he's doing, people want it, so he'll just keep selling it, and it is what it is. But what's up, Scott? Anomaly, get in touch with Gerald Celente. He was on David Knight yesterday and said if we don't stand up now, it's over. He's right. I mean, I'll check it out. I like David Knight. He's cool. He's a nice guy. Someone said passion, oratory, and truth is worth. I'm not trying to be a fearmonger, because at the end of the day, I'm grateful, and you make whatever you make out of life. Like, nothing's ever going to be easy. If it is too easy, sometimes it's good to not be easy. So I'm not scared. I'm not fearful. I'm not a doomer. I'm just saying the trajectory of America is very clear. And the more I start learning, the more I'm starting to realize that we used to have morals and values and laws that actually made sense. And then at a certain point, they started fading away, right? And combined with the people that you have here, if you have a certain group of people who believes in a certain religion and a certain set of morals, and then you switch it up and bring people that don't have those morals and don't believe that, and then the parties flip, and then both parties flip, and then it gets to a point where the party that you're supporting is further left than the other party 7-8 years ago. It's not me being a doomer and gloomer. It's just like, until people identify this, it's not going to change. But people, I really do think they do a great job of giving people what they think they want. Like George Bush, 8 years, right? Everybody's tired of George Bush. Well, Obama came around, your first half African-American president. And what did he run on after 8 years of Bush? People wanted change. So Obama ran on change. I'm going to change, the perfect candidate for the left. He's black. He's well-spoken. He's, probably smarter than most politicians as far as like how he composes himself. Well, we got change. Okay, so you change. In 8 years of Obama, people were pissed off because he, turned a lot of liberals into conservatives. Well, that wasn't the change I wanted. So here's Trump, right? Make America great again. Well, we're going to change back to the other way. And then people are like, well, we want the change. We're going to vote for Trump. And he won the election. And then COVID pandemic hysteria starts hitting, and the world turns into a big pharma hellhole. And people want change, even though they don't realize that it wasn't Biden's not going to save them, but they want change, right? So that's the whole scheme, I think. It's like, well, you run that way, and then you run that way, and then you run that way, never identifying that both parties, although certain people might cave and do certain things for you, they're headed in the same direction. And I'm starting to truly think at a certain point, if there isn't a set of morals in this country and laws and people standing up for what they believe in, it's going to continue to go in that direction, because there is no party really doing that to the full extent. I vote Republican because I've decided that although they cave slightly left than the Democrats. But what does it mean to cave slightly left than the Democrats if you go from what Republicans were in 2019 to now what Republicans are in 2020, 2021? Excuse me. They caved on a lockdown, okay? They caved on trillions of dollars of printing. They caved so hard, they went further left than Obama. So I still vote Republican because I've determined they cave less than the left, and they're better with things that I care about. But what does it mean to cave less if you caving less is so far left that you're further left than the guy that was there before? Their caving is too much. They're caving too much. So it's okay to vote. It's okay to support people. But I do think it would be wise for people to challenge their constituents. And people say I get repetitive. I got a response from Larry Elder in 24 hours. I'm one person. I'm only 31 years old. If I can do it, other people can. I'm not special. I don't have a college degree. I went to school for journalism, but I was doing so good with rap music that I dropped out and I pursued that. But in general, if I can do it, other people can do it. It's just nobody wants to do it. That's why I decided to do what I'm doing, because I didn't see anyone else doing it. And I got tired of how fake the news was. But in general, it's not a problem, me talking about Trump and Larry Elder. That's good. I'm not saying I'm not even going to vote for Larry Elder. I still maybe might vote for him. I haven't even decided yet, but he needs to get tougher on the biggest issue facing our state. And if he's not, it's not good enough. If everybody had that energy, Trump would shift, Elder would shift, Abbott would shift, DeSantis would shift, but they're not, because nobody challenges them. You get what I'm saying? Everybody just claps. Governor Abbott claims to fight for free speech, and then he's trying to ban the only Christian conservative application with a diehard Christian supporter who actually believes what the Bible says, but still doesn't censor speech like a Bible thumper would. And he's trying to ban them. He's a phony. Doesn't mean you don't have to vote for him, but don't clap so much for these people. Hold your ground, tell them what you don't want, and they would actually do it. It's not the politicians who are destroying our country. It's the people. We have to take accountability. I'm not just blaming Trump. It's us. How come people used to act a certain way and now nobody acts a certain way? How come people used to be brave and tough and they're not brave and tough anymore? Yeah, these politicians do exactly what you want. If you want it, they'll sell it. If you buy it, they sell it. Obama sold it and people bought it. Trump sold it and people bought it. I'm not just talking about Moderna and Pfizer. So it's going to come when enough people in this country or in a community say, we're done losing ground. And I guarantee you, it's going to be more popular than people think. You don't have to play this big tent game to get people support. Half these people don't even know politics that well. Just be honest and say, this is what we want. This is what we demand. We voted for you, but we're not just going to sit and clap. It's not a bad thing to call out Trump or call these people out. It's necessary because they're not leading you where you think you're leading them. And I'm not trying to be repetitive, but the people who think that Trump is leading them to the promised land admit when they argue with me that he's being misled. So I'm like, you're following a leader that you don't even think is being led by himself? Like, oh, he's leading me to the right direction. He's just not, because he's misled. So why are you following a leader that isn't even leading themselves? It's like people debunk their own argument in a conversation with me. And I am passionate because I'm not a slave. I'm not a prisoner. I'm not a second-tier citizen. I'm not a peasant. I'm not a serf. And I've made that message very, very clear in my community. I've made that message very, very clear in my country and hopefully the world. So when they shut down restaurants and they started doing mandatory masks to walk 5 steps, I didn't just go along with it. I would say 90% of conservatives went along with it, maybe 95%. Everybody went along with it. It's not Trump's fault. Nobody stands up for themselves. When they tried to force me in a mask to walk 5 seconds, either I trolled them with my helmet and started just making fun of them, or when I got tired of doing that, I said, no, I'm getting the manager. Please do, because I have something to say to the manager. Can you wear a mask to walk 5 steps outdoors? No. Can you stop abusing children? Can you stop abusing the elderly? No one wants to do this. You can't see their face. It makes zero scientific sense. And you guys are child abusers and elder abusers. Imagine if every conservative man did that in the county. It would have ended 6 months ago. But everybody just plays along with it. Well, it's just this. Well, it's just that. Well, it's just this. You guys are walking towards hell. You guys are walking towards the hellification of America. So don't just blame the left. If 100% of conservative men stood up for what they believed in, this could have ended 3 months ago, 4 months ago, 5 months. There would be no conversation around vaccine passports because there'd be enough people that it's so clear that it's not going to happen. But just like conservatives caved to the mask, I know people who said, I'll never cave to the passport. Well, unless I needed to travel, then I will cave. So you will cave, and then you'll get it. And then you'll look at me and say, well, if I got it, you can get it. So you're not my ally. You're just another flimsy, sand, like blowing in the wind. And that's the base. It's not just the politicians. People look up to the politicians because they're afraid to be themselves and do their own thing. Like Trump is not going to save you. DeSantis is not going to save you. I would argue that they're not even trying to save you to the fullest extent. Can people do something for themselves? They can't. Then why would Trump do something for you? And if you do something for yourself, you get the reward of doing something. It comes with a bigger reward than voting because it's your life. It's your destiny. I live in a conservative area. No one was doing what I was doing. I can't point out maybe 10, 20, 30 people, maybe a couple hundred, not half. I mean, probably 60% of the people where I live are Republican. They were not doing that. Maybe a few businesses. I mean, well, we have to do. Okay, then you're going to cave again. Chad said you should run for office. I don't want to be in politics. I don't like the people there. In general, it's a lot of false hope, I think. I support good politicians. I like certain people like Thomas Massie. He loves it. He's meant to be there. But what is a politician? First of all, they raise millions of dollars off you. What do they do with all the money? They just pay for advertisement and pay these people and pay these. So you're funneling money to these people so they could just run for office. Then they get into office. If you're a minority Republican leader, what are you doing? What can you do? You can't even do anything. You get what I'm saying? You're not even the majority house. So none of your bills are going to pass. So you're just a spokesman. All they do is suck up money and tell you that they're fighting for you, and they're not really doing anything. So I appreciate good politicians, but everyone thinks you need to run for office to do something. If you start a business, you could probably do more than a politician. If you do something for a church, or it's like you can do more outside of politics. It's important. Somebody needs to do it. But for some, does Mark Zuckerberg need to run for office? Does Jack Dorsey need to run for office? Does Peter Thiel need to run for office? Does Susan Wojcicki need to run for office? Does Bill Gates? They don't need to run for office because they're probably more powerful than politicians. You don't need to run for office. I appreciate people saying I should run like as a compliment, but that's not the only way to do something. I saw a gap in the media. I became the media. I would argue, I'm not saying I'm so special, but I would say media is more important than politicians. Media has sent our country from a respectable Christian country into a moralist hellhole. The politicians didn't do that. The media did. The media controlled the minds of the masses. The media controlled the minds of your kids, and they sent everybody spiraling towards hell. And now you have a choice between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who are both 70-plus-year-old vaccine salesmen. So that's what happens when you don't have control over your own media. Media is important, business is important, commerce is important, growing food is important, selling food is important, restaurants are important, nursing is important, doctors are important, judges are important, lawyers, good lawyers are important. There's so many jobs that are important, but when you see somebody doing something you like, you don't have to tell them to run for office, because I could sit in Congress for 4 years, do nothing, raise $10 million, and that shows people's priorities. Right now, I don't need extra money or anything. I appreciate Patreon, et cetera, but I don't feel like trust me, I'll let you know if I need money or something crazy happens, but like I'm doing fine. But in general, people don't just send me as much money as they send politicians. If I said, hey, I'm running for office, I would get more money in 1 week than I've gotten in 4 or 5 years raising so I could just blow it and potentially not even win my election. That's what people like to spend money on. I get you need to spend money for politics, but if I wanted to make more money or get more money, I could probably raise more money in a week than I've raised in 4 years because people think I'm going to save them or something. That just shows people's mindset. Well, yeah, I'm doing more media-wise than I probably would if I ran for office. The only difference is I'd get more media attention and they try to ruin my life. But, it's like, hey, I'm running for office. People donate $4 million, $3 million, $2 million. Hey, I'm making videos getting almost 1 billion views, changing the minds of tens of millions of people who end up being voters. Here's $1, here's $3. And I'm not saying I need money. I'm totally fine. Life is good. I've been blessed by millions of people watching, donating, etc. I'm more than good, and I'm overly grateful. I'm just saying it's a funny dynamic that if I decided to run for office, I guarantee you I would get 50 times as much money, and I'd probably do less than I'm doing now because I'd be too busy to edit videos and stuff. But I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's not the only way. It's not the only way to affect society. In fact, it's not even like a top 3 way, because if you don't even control your own media and resources, they're going to turn the minds of your nation into mush, and those people become the voters, and those people become the politicians, and those people become the lawyers and the judges. So they are using the education system, they're using the media, and they are ensuring that they will dominate politics for 10, 20, 30 years based on that manipulation. So I would say it's more important to do media stuff. But I mean, it's debatable for sure, but it's not like, I don't mind people saying that, but people are always like, you got to do this or shut your mouth. Shut up if you don't run for office. If you can't run and throw your hat in the ring, then shut up. It's like, all right, then go donate to some Republican that'll, hey, I'm fighting here. Give me your money. I need more money to fight for the monies. It's like, no, I get it. Maybe I'll even donate to a politician one day, but it's just a funny industry. And all these politicians, they all talk like politicians, right? Why do people watch my channel? I think for many reasons. I could be funny. I do good reporting, but I talk normal. I'm not selling you anything. This is real passion. Every politician, even on the right wing, all these people running, what they talk like politicians. Oh, well, I'm going to end the homelessness epidemic by sticking it to the liberal. Like, everyone talks as if they're trying to sell you like a crappy product. Like every politician, I think that's why Trump did so well, is he didn't seem like he talked that way. Now I feel like he does at his rallies, but when he was in his prime, he didn't talk to everybody like he's selling like a used pillow or something. So, but I find that funny. Even people running for governor, like, I'm running for governor of the state of California. It's like, do you have to talk like that? Is that how you have, like, is that you sign a paper that says you have to, like, now that you're a politician, you have to talk like it. You can't just talk like a normal person. You have to just be like, there's crime on the streets, it's surging, and I've got a plan for you. I'm fiscally, it's like, who decides that everyone has to act like that? Like, I'm a Republican politician. I'm not like those Democrats. I'm going to fight the rhinos in office who don't stand with President Trump. And I'm like, they all talk like that. They must have to sign a paper or something that says, like, you have to just, like, you have to get stiff, and you have to talk like you have a stick up your no, I think that's part of, like, the signature. Like, that's why people like Trump, though, because he didn't talk like that. I feel like he was one of the first politicians who didn't talk like that. I missed 2017 Trump. He was at the pulse of everything. That's why I never complained about him. He was at the pulse of every important issue. He was right there. And then in 2020, I feel like he's not on the pulse of the most. People hate when I say stuff about him or Larry Elder, but to me, the pulse of the world right now, look at France, look at Italy. The pulse is the vaccine passport. That's the pulse. That's the pulse. If you're not making that a big part of your speech, Trump no longer has the pulse of the people. He used to. Larry Elder doesn't have the pulse of the people. This is the number one issue facing humanity. Number 2 is not even close. And you guys want to act like it's not even a thing. You put out a whole campaign thing and you don't have one part about standing up against it, except for some weak statement after you say you'd wear a mask if I had to wear one too. That's too, you could act like that's cool, but the reason they do it is because people eat it up. But you got to get tough on this issue. They're never going to take away all of these restrictions. Sports, at this rate, permanently ruined. Maybe a good thing. Travel, at this point, soon to be permanently ruined. Cruises, at this very point, permanently ruined. Okay? These are important things. If you want to travel to Europe, you can't anymore. It's ruined. If you want to travel via cruise, it's ruined. If you want to fly in an airplane, you have to wear a mask. We've lost a little bit of ground there, but in general, it's like, I don't want to lose. I don't think this is all going to magically go away. This is going to go away when brave people in every industry start doing something for Christ instead of for the devil. Right now, people are so comfortable making excuses for the devil, making excuses for wickedness. Well, he was just trying to do the right thing. He just ended up serving Satan instead of the Lord. It's like, well, then he's not my leader. If he by mistake slipped up and started pushing a wicked agenda, then I'm sorry, I'm not interested anymore. I have other things to do. I could watch someone else on YouTube if I don't want to listen to that person anymore. So when people start serving righteousness in every industry, this whole illusion will be revealed. But it can't be revealed right now because everybody's working for the wicked and they think that's like the status quo. Well, he had to do that. Well, they have to do that. Well, I have to sit here and make excuses for it. Well, that's the only thing he could have done. He had bad advisors. I mean, he followed the wrong people. He got fooled by Fauci. I mean, the Wuhan lab. I mean, no one could have. It's like it's making excuses for wickedness. Once people in this country stop making excuses and just do, like, there's probably thousands of good people at the FDA, maybe not thousands, but at least a dozen. There's probably good people in every industry, but who wants to step up and tell the truth? Who wants to step up and really, be a person who does what's right, regardless of who's mad at you? I don't care if Trump or Biden's mad at you or the left or right. What's right? What's the right thing to do? What's the truth? This is affecting millions of people, millions of children. If it goes against my bias, that's fine. If it goes against the left's bias, that's fine. But who's going to step up and do what's right? If enough people in this country do what's right, this whole illusion disappears tomorrow, and there's that many good people. But this country is being bogged down, not just by the left or by the right, by people who are more complacent and more comfortable doing what they know is wrong or caving to what they know is wrong instead of standing up for what's right. It used to be in America, it used to be uncomfortable to do what's wrong. I'm watching a documentary now. They used to have laws that certain sexual acts were not legal, okay? You could say that's mean. I would say, yeah, it's a little far from what I'm accustomed to, but they used to make things that you shouldn't be doing all the time illegal to an extreme extent, to the point where, like, way too extreme for this era, but there was more morality then. So they've taken all that away. And back in the day, doing what was wrong was hard to do. Doing what was right was easier to do because the laws were based on the Bible. So people were not able to just be wicked demons all over the place. It was not only illegal, but it was frowned upon by all of society. Now we live in a wicked world where doing what's right is not only in some cases illegal, but it's just frowned upon. And doing what's wrong, it gives you a thumbs up by the media and both parties. And that's why this country is falling, because it's easier to do what's wrong than to do what's right. And I am not perfect. I am not a flawless individual. I've made mistakes. I have flaws. But I identify that the wicked is jammed in my face 24/7. It's easy to do something wicked. It's easy to look at something online that's wicked. It's all over the place. There's pornography on Twitter. You can't even have a conservative opinion on Twitter, but you can have pornography, being pushed to your 18-year-old in the middle of their feed, but they're not allowed to hear Louis Farrakhan or Donald Trump anymore. Is that a moral society? I'm not saying Trump and Farrakhan are perfect, but I'm just saying you have an easier time accessing pornography than you do listening to a counter opinion to the mainstream narrative. This is a world where it's so easy to do what's wicked. And back when it wasn't so easy, to me, there was a better fabric. Not everything was perfect here, but they flipped the laws and people just make excuses for it. Someone said, but the churches have failed because you see many of them with LGBT and BLM flags waving outside them. Speaks volumes. It's ironic because the Marxists at Black Lives Matter, they're not going to admit it, but they're trained Marxists. And here's the irony. I have it right here, the Communist Manifesto. It's short. I don't think the ideology is good, but they specifically say, I could read it because I have it highlighted. They don't like religion. So they're supporting a Marxist organization that was created by trained Marxists with the idea to implement this ideology that wants to get rid of religion because it looks at religions and families as a burden on society. And you have religious churches promoting an ideology that wants to literally get rid of them. They're idiots. But it's not just left-wing churches. There's a lot of right-wing churches that are subservient to a foreign nation that doesn't even care about Jesus Christ. So the deception goes to both parties. But I'm not acting like I'm a perfect Christian. I'm far from it. but I identify the fact that doing what's wrong is now promoted all over the place as if it's like a pride thing. Isn't that interesting? Pride. People are so proud to do something that's not that impressive. Like, it's like if I have sex, that's not that impressive. Do I talk about sex all the time? I never talk about sex because, first of all, I'm a news show, but also it's not impressive. I'm sure I could go on the prowl and find somebody to have sex with today, but I don't want to because it's nothing to be proud of. Like, you shouldn't just like stick your private part in someone else's whenever you want. Like, that's not normal, and it's not healthy. And in general, you got to think about who you want to have a kid with, etc., not just going out and doing all the time. So what if my whole thing was like, I'm proud. I'm a proud sex guy. I just go around and have sex, threesomes, foursomes. Heck, I have sex and, this, that, this tool, that tool. It's like, what? If you want to do that, like it probably shouldn't be broadcasted. And if you broadcast it, it's nothing to be proud about. I mean, it's if anything, I would say it's something to be questioned, not like super pumped about. Like, you should kind of reevaluate. But that's what the LGBT movement is. They're proud of sodomy. I mean, I'm sorry. It's just kind of weird. I have friends that are gay. I don't look down on them and hate them. One of my friends that's gay texted me yesterday, but I just think it's odd to be proud of sodomy. Like, are you an entrepreneur? Do you have a business? Like, do you have a 401k? Like, that's all? Like, that would be like me being proud of like going to bars and just like banging chick. Like, it's not, I don't think that's cool either. But in general, I don't think sodomy is like something that you should like parade around about for a month. I think that's a little weird. And if you go back today, it was the opposite. Like, the world has been inverted. If you want to do stuff behind closed doors, like, that's on you. That's between you, yourself, your family, your significant other, and the Lord. But at the same time, that's not the world we live in. I have to act like that's normal and cool and acceptable and like so great. I'm like, I don't think it's great. Just like I don't think a lot of things are great. But if it's, I would be celebrated if I did something super immoral or super creepy. They'd be like, that's really great. It's like, is it though? Is it like that great? Because is it so awesome that it's like my whole identity now? It's not that cool. So I don't know. Someone said, I thought you were supposed to have pride in what you accomplished or built, not just random aspects of your life. Well, they say you don't want to be overly prideful about anything, right? That pride is one of the sins where it's like, if you're super proud of, it's like at a certain point, you do want to be humble. But yeah, I would say like, if you did something with your life, it's probably more impressive than having anal sex, like I would say like, people that are gay in the Republican Party, like their biggest accomplishments are probably like, something they did, not just like sodomizing a guy. Like that's your top 5 accomplishment. You're like, well, I did this. I started a business. I rescued 1,000 elderly people and I like anal. And it's like, what? Like, that's in your list of well, I'm proud. I mean, every month you go out for a month. You talk about that for a month. Well, yeah, every corporation puts it in their flag it's like, it's just weird. I don't have to act like it's normal. I know they want people to act like, well, that's just what they do. It's like, why though? Is there a month for Jesus Christ? Is there a month for like feeding the poor? Is there a month for cleaning up homelessness? Is there a month for, I don't know, appreciating America? Is there a month for eliminating poverty? Is there a month for freedom? But there's a month for people celebrating sodomy, and I'm supposed to act like that's super awesome. I guess we can act, but and the right wing plays into it. Ronna McDaniel's like, I'm happy. It's like, no one can, like, people at this point, either they like you or they don't. You don't have, like, no one's looking at Ronna McDaniel's Pride Month post like, I really thought the right wing was homophobic, but now the GOP leader really showed me that she's accepting and loving of us. And, I don't think the GOP gets it. But it's okay to be thoughtful and compassionate and nice to people. But I truly don't think, I think at a certain point, tough conversations need to be had. For example, if I stood up here and said, I'm the threesome guy. I have threesomes with chicks all the time. I'm out at every club, just doing what I want with chicks and this and that. And like at a certain point, it would be okay. Like you don't have to act like what I'm doing is moral and right. You're allowed to say, Anomaly, I like you, but I don't like that line in your rap song. Anomaly. And there's lines in my rap songs from 2 years ago that I don't even like because I've matured as a person. So I listen to my songs and say, I don't even like that line. I'm not supposed to say, you're an anomaly phobe. Oh, you just hate me and you're afraid of me. It's like, no, maybe what you're doing is wrong and immoral and not ideal. It's okay to not like something that I've said. It's not like I could just talk about sexual things all the time and you're supposed to act like it's great. You are allowed to say that it's not, if it's not, and there's a conversation to be had. They're putting something wicked behind a flag and pushing it down your throat and saying, if you disagree with any aspect of what we're doing, politically, socially, morally, religiously, economically, because the rainbow flag is a lot more than just gay now. It's like a whole movement, mafia. It's like if you disagree with any part of what we're doing, we got a flag, but we're adding colors because there's too many genders popping. It's like if you disagree with us, you're a homophobe. It's not. It's just not true. It would be like me talking about my sexual endeavors and you having to just agree with me or me shaming you. It's like, no, at a certain point, you're allowed to question if that is moral, if that is healthy. And there's nothing wrong with that because I'm going to be honest, as a straight man, I don't think, I'm sorry if your kids are watching. Sorry, this got a little bit serious. So tune out, close their ears. I don't think anal sex is as healthy as normal sex. I think it's not only dirtier, it's not only easier to probably, catch a disease, but it's also not the function of why you have sex in the first place, which is meant to not only stimulate, but more importantly, I think have a child is like the main function of sex. I'm not acting like I'm a goody two shoes. I'm not acting like I'm perfect. I'm not acting like I'm the most moral person in the world. I'm just saying it's okay to say, I don't think anal sex is healthy because I think there are actual, things that are not only not natural, but like you could end up suffering because of that, like I don't think that that's something I should have all the time or ever really, I mean, people can do what they want, but there are actual health consequences to doing certain things, including unprotected sex. Like you can take the risk. There's not, like if you want to do certain things, that's on you, but I don't have to act like it's awesome. I don't like at a certain point, I don't think it is. I'm like, I question if that's even healthy at all. Maybe it is, and maybe I'm wrong, but I should be allowed to question it. Someone said to each their own. I agree, but here's the thing. It isn't to each their own. It's the same with the vaccines. Like, yeah, to each their own until it's not anymore. So in a vaccine world, it should be to each their own, but it's like to each their own, except for if you don't do what I do, you're not going to be able to come here. So it's the same with the LGBT stuff and all. It's like to each their own is not what they're pushing. They're like, this is what we're doing. It's awesome. We're proud of it. It's a month long. We're also a political movement. We're also adding 10,000 genders. We're also into Black Lives Matter. We also push Marxism. And if you disagree with any aspect of what we're doing, you're a hateful person and you need to be shut off of social media. So the to each their own argument is not existent. So this is why I think the right loses. Ronna McDaniel says, I agree with it. It's like, you're not just agreeing with gay marriage. You're agreeing with if you're not addressing everything they're doing and acting, it's the same as saying, well, it's a libertarian decision. We're going to push this and we're going to act like we don't see what's going on. Well, you should see what's going on because it's gotten so much bigger. There's tens of thousands of gay people that don't even agree with what they're doing. And you're sitting there agreeing with what they're doing. I don't know. To me, it's a little cringe. And I think the rainbow belongs to God, or at least the Irish. I think the Irish had it first. And I think God had the rainbow. I think the Irish stole it. And then I think the LGBT stole it from the Irish. And, God and Irishmen want to talk to you about the rainbow because they've been using it in Lucky Charms pots for 100 years or so. And I don't think it's fair that you just steal it from the Irish who stole it from God. Someone said you're trying to push your views as well. You were calling these people demonic. Who did I call demonic? Let me know who I called demonic. Maybe like 15 minutes ago when I was talking about something else. But if listen, I lived in Los Angeles. If you're using billboards to promote witchcraft demon television shows, you are demonic, like proudly. So when I use the word demonic, I believe it was talking about Los Angeles billboards, which literally include witchcraft demon movies. They're not hiding that they're into the devil. They're like, we love the devil, we love witchcraft, and the next sign is gay vodka. I'm just saying, these are the type of signs. It's like demon movie, witchcraft movie, we're proud Satanists, gay vodka, smoke this, do that. Like, I'm not the most perfect person, but it's disgusting reading the billboards in LA, the worst political views, the worst television shows. If you're promoting Satan outwardly, I would say you're demonic. Like, literally. I don't know. Someone say rewatch your live feed. Well, Gavin, tell me, what part did I say was demonic? And to be fair, I'm not saying I'm pushing my views. Like I do certain videos where I'm fair and bipartisan. These are my views. I do think that it used to be hard to do immoral things, and it used to be easy to do the right thing. And now I think it's easy to do wicked things, and it's hard to do the right thing. So I mean, these are my views. I wouldn't argue and say I'm not this is exactly what I think. You don't have to agree with it, but these are my views. Yeah. I'm not pretending like they're not. But I don't remember which part you said I said that for, but I'm not really I don't know. Whatever I said, I probably meant. And I see, I guess the point that I'm making on top of all the points I already made is like in the Republican Party, they're an open tent, right? They're an open tent to liberals. They're an open tent to left-wing media who hates them. They're an open tent to Caitlyn Jenner, but they're not an open tent to the right wing. They don't like when Bryson Gray or Nick Fuentes or all these other people take a hardline Christian stance. So that's kind of the reason I brought it up in the first place, although I did want to have this conversation, is what happens to a party that's an open tent for the left, so far left that what they now let into their party wouldn't even have been allowed into the Democratic Party 10 years ago, but they're a closed tent to their own party and their own religion who doesn't agree with them from a biblical perspective. If you're going to be an open tent, be open to both sides. Why would you kick out Christians who believe what your party believed 5 years ago, but be open to people who don't believe anything that you believe? That's why the Republicans lose. If you're going to be an open tent, you got to be open to everybody, not just left-wingers. You got to be open to the Christians who disagree with you. There's certain Christians who take harder line Christian stances than I take. Do I call them homophobes and racists? And no, I say, let's hear what they have to say. And most of the time, honestly, they're right, because all these pastors that were considered extreme, what did they tell you? Listen, I was liberal when gay marriage was passed. I agreed with it when gay marriage passed, but I also could identify that the liberals were kind of crazy and wouldn't allow Christians to disagree. I didn't have this big moral stance back then, but I did think it was weird how hard they were pushing it. Anyway, even when I agreed with it, every pastor said, if you let this happen, this is going to happen. If you let this happen, and you know what? I would say they're wrong. They're wrong not because it didn't happen. They underplayed what would happen. So the most extreme Christian pastors actually downplayed how bad it got. So the Christian pastors who said it would get bad, they're totally right. If anything, they underestimated how wicked and immoral these politics were. So it's hard for me to think that you should shut out those people out of the Republican Party when it was those people who probably said that this would happen 10 years ago, and it all did happen. Look how fast all this stuff happened. It went from this to this to this, and now we have things that are blurring on the lines of like child predatorial stuff. I think you shouldn't push sexuality to 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds. I don't think you should push straight sex to those age groups. In fact, I think you shouldn't. But now they're doing that under the guise of the LGBT flag. They're saying, well, no, you're a homophobe if you disagree with that. No, I believe this for all sexualities, that this is too young to implement this type of stuff, but they're doing it through the guise of gay. And now predatorial wise, just like pushing these ideas into kids' heads at such a young age, and it makes them think sexual and it makes them think different at an age when they're impressionable. Okay. at an age when they don't know who they are. They don't know if they're a fireman. They don't know if they're Batman. They don't know if they're a Power Ranger. So it's flirting on the lines of, well, my kid just thought this, and this was always how he thought, and this is who he is, versus you programmed your kid to think he was that, and that's not really what he would have thought with better parents, and you forced him essentially to think that way, and now he's trying to do something that goes against nature that is going to end up hurting him psychologically and physically in the future. That's what they're doing. And very few people really take a stance against it. I get why it's hard to do, and they're very wicked and savage, but they've crossed the line crazy. I think Ashley St. Clair did a video about it recently. It was very savage, but very true. I think she nailed it. It's just like, yeah, this is not two consensual adults figuring out what they want to do with their body. This is kids being predatorily targeted by Amazon, Nickelodeon, Disney, mainstream media, their favorite musicians. Like, it's weird. And people like Lil X Nas, you know, who has a huge audience that's younger. Most, I would say, his fans are under 18, if not a lot of them. He did a video with my friend Jack Harlow, who I like. I like Jack Harlow. I've met him. I know him. Very nice guy, very cool guy, very humble guy. The new song, Lil X Nas, he's in jail and he's dancing naked with like 12 dudes. It's just like, are you just gay, or are you just trying to piss everybody off? Like, he loves like yeah, Christians are crazy. Yeah, I worship the devil. Haha. It's like, it's just kind of gross, dude. And it's unnecessary. And it's also overly sexualizing kids. Whether it was straight or gay, it's a little too much for your age range. But in general, it is different, and it is kind of just like sick. You know, he's doing all this stuff. It's like, well, what do you want? It's like, well, the Christian pastor said that you would do this 15 years ago, and I thought they were crazy. And now it's like they are pushing the boundaries further and further and further and further. I think it goes hand in hand with everything. Like, I'm all for being open-minded, but if in your city of San Francisco, you're allowed to steal a certain amount and they're not going to arrest you because they changed the law, you're allowing things that are unbiblical, like theft, and, you know, in some cases even worse, you're allowing it. So it's not like exclusive, like, well, you can do this, but you can't do this. Well, show me somewhere that they did this and they didn't do this. It almost doesn't exist, because everywhere you allow this type of degeneracy and this type of immorality in, then the other side comes in. It's like they're kind of almost a package deal. I wish they weren't, but it just seems like that. So San Francisco, they're degenerating socially, but they're also degenerating the laws. You let that in, and that turns out. I wish the Christian pastors were wrong. I seriously do. I wish they were exaggerating. I wish what they said never happened. I seriously wish I felt the same way I did when I was younger, that they were just over analyzing the situation, but they weren't. So now you have the total decay and degeneracy of these cities. Force masking, disgusting trash. By the way, one of the easiest ways to eliminate a disease is by cleaning yourself. A lot of diseases in medieval times, they went away once humans figured out how to wash themselves, because if you're not washing yourself, you're more susceptible to diseases and viruses. So now LA is getting dirtier and more disgusting. You could get 15 vaccinations over the course of 15 years, but that's not going to stop the things that are coming not only across the border with people that are not being checked health-wise, but also just the decay of these cities. So yeah, it's a big pharma operation, but what about the diseases that are going to come because it's like a third world country dirt zone all over your streets? So LA's decaying. San Francisco's decaying. It's not time to turn Austin, Texas into Los Angeles. I know it's too late, but it's not time to cave and act like you can do half of what they're doing and still remain conservative. It's time to just close the door. I think it's time to just say, you do that there. I will not bother you. Just don't come here and do any of this stuff here, because I don't think it's mutually exclusive. When the social decay happens, the cultural decay happens, the legal decay happens, and the societal decay happens. They all go hand in hand. So LA, San Francisco, you can't separate what they're doing socially with what they're doing economically, because find me a place that doesn't exist. Usually it's when the population is more sane and not so psycho, but it's like there's no reason to want to cave to this type of stuff, because I like San Francisco. I like LA. I don't want to be back there. I think they're going downhill. They're decaying so quickly. I don't think they know what to do with themselves. I don't think the politicians there know what to do. Their crime is going to rise. Their population is getting more degenerate. And on top of all that, they are authoritarian. They don't even want people to go to a restaurant. It's like, I don't even want to be in LA, but if I was in LA, maybe I'd want to go to a restaurant because that's like the only good thing about LA. It's like clubs, bars, restaurants. They have good food there. I don't even want to go because now it's an authoritarian hell zone. It's like, you can't sit at my restaurant unless you have a vaccination passport. So nothing is good about these cities right now. They're full-blown authoritarian on top of their decay. If anybody had any reason to even want to go there, they're taking it away with their other psycho policies. These cities are literally going to hell. Someone said, you said it was demonic. It is demonic, in my opinion. You could prove me wrong or live there, but I don't want to. I did for 7 years. I'm glad I left. It's only getting worse. And on top of all the shit that was already there, they're now adding authoritarian forced vaccination policies that are borderline psychotic, reminiscent of some of the sickest times in human history. So I don't think it's time to pander to these people. I think it's time to say, that's what you want to do. If you want to open the portals of what you can do socially, sexually, physically, literally, you can do that there, but in my opinion, there's no reason to cave because it's like opening a portal to hell. And I'm not the most I'm not acting like a saint. I'm far from it. Trust me. But in general, it's like at a certain point, it's time to close the portal. They're open to everything. It's time to close it and be like, let's not do any of that. Let's not allow any of that to seep in. Because once you allow that, the pastors were right. It opens up all of it, it opens up. I really am interested to see how LA and San Francisco turn out because socially, economically, physically, medically, they don't know what they're doing everything wrong, literally like everything wrong. I can't imagine that you can prosper there at all in the next 5 or 6 years. I would never want to go back there. And I feel bad because I know some people here live there. I lived in LA for 7 or 8 years. You can't pay me to go there anymore. I literally have no interest in it. And if you go to an area that's not so wicked, you'll notice within a month and you'll be like, how the hell did I ever live there for so long? Let me know what you guys think. I'm a head out. Thank you guys. I got to use the restroom. That's really why I got to go. I got to pee, but God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. Thank you for having the tough conversations. Thank you for getting mad at me and arguing with me. I enjoy it. I mean, it's not the most fun thing, but sometimes a back and forth is good. I'm just not caving on this medical tyranny stuff at all because I know what they're doing in LA and New York City. They're going to try to bring it to the rest of the country like they always do. And I see Republicans cave all the time. And that's all I'm asking Larry Elder and Donald Trump. I don't hate them. They both potentially could still get my vote at one point. I'm not saying it's very likely at this point, but it could happen. But I want to see them get tough on this stuff because I've seen it cave time and time again. And I really think that this passport stuff, this is like the landmark human moment, the biggest world moment in human history in my lifetime, where if we go this way, I don't see things ever going back to normal or ever being good and on the up and up again. And if we go this way, things will go back on the up and up because there's a lot of great things about this era too. We've made a lot of progress. So it's like, this to me is the fork in the road. And I can't have a politician, whether it's Trump or Larry Elder, on the wrong side of the fork or standing in the middle with some weak statements. Show me you're on the right side of this argument because it's not a small one. I think the future of humanity depends on it. God bless you guys. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. I got to pee. And hopefully that wasn't too intense. My clips channel, please subscribe there. I got quick clips, 2-minute clips, 3-minute clips, very easy stuff if you want to share or watch and don't have time, because I understand the podcast long format's not for everyone. So I'm trying to get shorter stuff for people. Have a good one, folks.